Welcome back to Wisdom from the Word. We are in our Psalm a Day series, and we're in Psalm 128 looking at the blessing that comes from the fear of the Lord. Would you join me as I read today? The Bible says, "Blessed is every one that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways. For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee. Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the sides of thine house, thy children like olive plants round about thy table. Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord. The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. Yea, thou shalt see thy children's children, and peace upon Israel." We saw in Psalm 127 that the Lord was the one that has to build our house, that has to build our life and our relationships, our career, and so on. That it was vain for us to try our best and work, and that it was all vain unless the Lord was in it. And now we see in Psalm 128 the blessing that the fear of the Lord brings. We see, first of all, in verse 1, the statement that makes the whole rest of the psalm. It says, "Blessed is every one that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways. For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee." So we see that everyone that fears the Lord is blessed if you fear the Lord and walk in his ways. And we see you're blessed that you'll eat the labor of your hands. It says, "Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee." In verses 3 and 4, take a little bit of a turn, so we're going to look at verse 5 and 6 first. So everyone that fears the Lord is blessed. You eat the labor of your hands. Happy shalt thou be, it shall be well with thee. Verse 5, "The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. Yea, thou shalt see thy children's children, and peace upon Israel." And then we see in verse 3 and 4 that it addresses the man who fears the Lord. Verse 4 explains verse 3. It says, "Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord." Verse 4 says, the man that fears the Lord, here is how he will be blessed. And we see that in verse 3. We see the verse says, "Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the sides of thine house, thy children like olive plants round about thy table." And so I looked into what a fruitful vine and what the olive plants symbolize. And so we see that the wife is a fruitful vine. Many people can understand what that means by just thinking about it. The fruitful vine is a plant, but it requires support from the tree. And because of the tree, the vine is able to bear fruit. The tree and the vine work hand in hand together. And so verse 3 says that as a man, your wife will be as the fruitful vine. She needs your support. She requires your support. But you work hand in hand together, and the fruitful vine bears fruit. And then we see it addresses the children. It says, "Thy children like olive plants round about thy table." An olive plant is a slow-growing tree or a shrub, and it takes time for these olive plants to grow, but they are very resilient. They can go through droughts and extreme weather conditions, and they endure those conditions. And so verse 3 talks about how the children symbolize the olive plant. And the olive plant has that potential to be something big and great, but it takes a lot of time. And so as we talked about in Psalm 127, we have to grow and show our children how to fear the Lord, how to please the Lord. As it said in Psalm 127:4, "As arrows in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth." They're as those arrows, and we get to choose which direction and how we are going to use those arrows, how we are going to lead our children. In closing, we see four things that the person that fears the Lord and the man that fears the Lord receives. We see, number one, that they themselves are blessed. We see, number two, that their family is blessed. Their marriage is blessed. We see, number three, that their city is blessed. It says in verse 5, "The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life." And then we see, fourthly, that even the country can be blessed. It says in verse 6, "Thou shalt see thy children's children, and peace upon Israel." And so you as an individual must personally obey God. As we see in verse 1, "Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways." It's a personal obedience. You as an individual obey God's commandments and the ways that he has laid out in his word. We see that in turn, God will bless a fruitful family. And then we see generational and community peace in Jerusalem and in Israel. So live for God, fear God, and be blessed. And that closes out Psalm 128 today. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video, leave a comment if you have a future video idea or just a comment about the video, and then subscribe if you have not already. Go check out The Bible with Brady as he brings us Psalm 129 tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.